Welcome to #52 Needs, and today we are talking about harmony. And I am so delighted to have with me my good friend, Jennifer Moalem. Jenny is a specialist in breaking through, a qualified counselor, an accredited practitioner of Resonance Repatterning, a transpersonal art therapist, and a facilitator of TRE, which you may remember from my interview with Richmond Heath. And Jenny, prior to being in private practice, she worked in education and consulting as well as in publishing. Resonance repatterning, which is what Jenny does mostly, is a synthesis of principles from quantum physics and epigenetics, along with ancient wisdom. So it packs a punch. Jenny's sessions may draw on a blend of complementary therapies, conflict resolution, emotional release processes, kinesiology, nutrition, understandings of Polyvagal Theory, and more, depending on what's needed. Jenny's work is all about shifting to higher levels of coherence. It's about harmony. Hi, Jenny, welcome.
Hi, Angela, and thank you.
Man, you're doing so much. I mean, you are one of the most qualified people I know. And then harmony, that's your big word, except you don't call it necessarily harmony, you call it coherence, which is the scientific word for it. Exactly. But when we look at harmony, originally, this is a word that comes from music.
Yeah, absolutely. And coherence is the scientific version. So if we think about it in music, we've got instruments that are creating different parts in an orchestra, or we've got parts singing in a choir. And if we think about coherence and the scientific definition, it's like if you think about a light globe and its waves scatter and light up a whole room, but if we could funnel all those waves into a single note, a single wave, if you like, we would have a laser. And we know how much more powerful a laser is than a light globe. Like a laser can, cut diamond. So there's an interesting unpacking to do, if you like, around this concept of harmony in music. And we could think about having coherence, first of all, in ourself. And that might be the aha that we get when we get a new level of understanding about something. And it's one thing to know it, but it's a whole other thing to truly embody it and then be able to act and operate from that place in our lives. So it's the difference between really just knowing information and really embodying it. And then we would take that sort of self-knowledge out and be able to integrate that in relationship with others. And have you ever been in a situation, for example, where you're really good at something, but then as soon as you go back into an old situation like a family gathering or a school reunion, all of a sudden the old you kind of comes up again and you revert to something that was like, oh my God, I thought I had that handled, So there's that. And then, obviously people in the workplace, that's kind of our relational self with others. And then we ripple that out further into our environment and how we are in the world. And we think of people like, whether it's Martin Luther King or Mahatma Gandhi, people like that were so coherent in their message that literally everybody else could get on the same wavelength and totally resonate with that. And that's really what happens when we're completely coherent in all those three levels, as within, so without.
Yeah. So we're taking harmony to a whole new level, because often when people talk about harmony, they talk about, I don't want to belittle this, but making nice. Being nice to each other, being kind and friendly to each other. So, and harmony, and also that also means for harmony's sake, we're pushing down conflict, we're not going to raise our voices, all of that. But we are talking, and you specifically are talking about harmony from a much, much deeper level. We're talking harmony from literally from a cellular level, right?
Absolutely. And the thing that you were just referring to there about making nice, we actually talk about that in therapies, like a please and appease behavior. And that comes from, if we're looking at the polyvagal model, where we're talking about being sympathetically charged. Most people understand that as being the fight or flight place. It's kind of where we're in a hypervigilant fight or flight place, but we're really trying to just put on the happy face and walking on eggshells and, you know, making sure we don't trigger anyone.
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine.
That's it. Yeah. And I know your acronym for that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the idea is to create coherence from the inside out. And that means that, I mean, there's a lot of, you know, I mean, therapy talks about recovery work. So it's about recovering parts that we have lost, but it really isn't. It's about just coming back in, let's use the word, into harmony with what we've had before and bringing that up to coherence.
And also recognizing that each one of us resonates with our own note. And that note is perfect for us. And we don't have to align with or harmonize with anybody else's note if we're truly being ourselves. Just the very act of coming into our true self means that we have a place and a part to play in the world.
And that's the authenticity.
Yeah.
That's the being real.
Yeah. And it's often by trying to avoid disharmony that we cause the very challenges that we're trying to avoid, because we actually need friction in order to grow. We need difference in order to create growth. I mean, friction makes fire, right?
Yeah.
It's energy. So we need to be able to embrace those ruptures in our relationships or those differences to bring greater understanding, to take connection to a whole new level. In fact, the relationship gurus in therapy, Doctors John and Julie Gottman, they talk about how couples that never have a disagreement tend not to stay together. They're often the couples that, you know, suddenly everything's been harmonious for years and suddenly one will just pack up and leave. And they say there's a magic ratio, and that for every non-harmonious or kind of healthy disagreement, there needs to be 5 positive ones that build on that emotional bank balance. And that's what most people quote when they write about this. But in truth, what the research really showed was outside of a conflict discussion, it's really an even higher ratio. We need to have up to 20 to 1 positive to disharmonious kind of.
And the reason for that is obvious. The brain always focuses on what doesn't work. So what doesn't work weighs so much more heavily than what works, because, you know, if I don't fit in, or if I've made a mistake, I want to make sure that I keep notice of that, so the next time I can correct that and that won't happen again. But if things work well, I don't have to pay attention to that at all. So this is why compliments are so important, because we need to tell people what works, how we create that connection.
Yeah.
But people don't do that. And they often, in my experience, often what happens is people, we give people the compliment. I mean, I don't know if this is still relevant for harmony, but let's just go there because I'm already there. People say, I really like your scarf, Jenny, but I don't like your necklace. And they think that they're paying people a compliment with that. But the only thing that registered is,
correct,
I don't like your necklace, right?
Yeah.
The positive stuff doesn't work. So if we want to create harmony, we really need to focus more on what works rather than on what doesn't work. And that's, again, I think that's for me, that's the acknowledgement that we are already whole and not broken.
Yes. Yeah. I think that piece about what doesn't work is interesting to explore, because our nervous system operates very simply through something called neuroception, which is not perception, but a kind of a level of perception that occurs under the conscious mind. And we're constantly filtering for cues of safety and cues of danger.
Yeah.
And when we have those cues of danger, we don't often register them as that. We immediately think about something's wrong. And that is what becomes the threat or the criticism or the attack, or because it's a defense mechanism that we go into immediately. So, but I get it, you know, I have that proofreader's sort of mind where I'll be scanning something and I'll immediately see the what's wrong. versus the what's right. And we all, our brains all operate differently based on our upbringing and also our generational patterns too. We know from science now that for any kind of trauma is in the genetic patterning for at least 5 generations, and probably more. That's just as far as they've been able to measure, right? But in my work, certainly in family and systemic constellations, when we do that, it goes way back, very often.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So talking about that, this is a complete change in topics, and I generally go by whatever comes up. Schumann resonance. If we resonate on a certain level and Earth resonates on another one, and I think the Schumann resonance is about 8 hertz.
And changing.
And changing. Yes, it's going up. It's going higher, right?
Oscillating a lot, I believe, from different readings. Yeah.
But I've read that it goes up to, the average is 8, but it's gone up to 30. Yeah. And the human bodies go between, theoretically, well, that's what a Harvard study said, between 5 up to 10. So if Earth's frequency is going higher than we are, what does that mean for us?
Look, I think that's interesting as a concept, but there are so many different ways of measuring frequency.
Okay.
In other scales where we've looked at health and disease patterns in the body and how certain illnesses vibrate at a particular level and how certain foods vibrate at a particular level. And how processed food has like 0 frequency, so it doesn't add any life force to our system. So all of those things do contribute to harmony, and it kind of leads us into that interesting point of, well, once we understand that we need to create harmony in self, in relationships, and with our environment, and throughout all 3 of those concentric circles, if you like, as a model, how do we do that? So we've got tools for self, like self-regulation, but one of the best tools that I think exists that is such an easy one and we all forget is simply to press pause. Literally. And again, that's a beautiful musical term when we think about it, because we are looking at the space between 2 notes or 2 frequencies, and just pressing pause in our busy lives gives us a chance to feel inside of our bodies. And then very often from that place, we can do something like movements. I know you've done a whole talk about TRE. And another aspect of that is something called pandiculation, which is a movement that's different to stretching, which is what we know, what you hear most people call it. But pandiculation is the kind of stretch that happens from the inside out. So when you first wake up in the morning and you go into a stretch rather than doing an intentional yoga stretch, that's what that's pandiculation. Okay. Those kind of stretches, which is a bit like a whole body yawn, if you like, that's often incredibly self-regulating for the system. And then simple things like a thymus tap. Are you familiar with that? Yeah. Just finding that rhythm and tapping on the thymus, which is so central to our immunity, self-love, It's
exactly where my necklace is at the moment. Yeah.
And then another beautiful tool for self energizing is from working from the Chinese meridian system, is zip-ups. Have you come across that one?
No, I haven't.
Oh, it's a fabulous tool. It's so easy when you're sitting down because your hand will naturally go to the base of the conception vessel meridian, which is our midline. And this is, again, our nervous system. So it starts at our pubic bone, which is like hands in your lap when you're sitting like this. And you're not touching the body, but you're running the fingers up that central line to the point in the middle of your chin. You'll see this in martial arts where you see them do movements like this. And then when they go down, they're going down outwards, right?
Yeah.
So you always come up the midline to energize yourself.
Okay.
And take your hand away when you're going back down again.
Okay.
Just notice how that feels.
Well, I'm not going to do this now because we're going to be here for a while if I start doing this.
You need to do it a couple of times. And then the other one that's great is from art therapy is doodling, but you do it like an energy scribble. So you can take your non-dominant hand, grab a big bit of art paper and just, if you're feeling a bit stressy, you can just, scribble away and do that while you're sitting at a desk. So they're all great tools. Yeah.
Oh, I should show you this. One of my clients sent me this because she knows I love popping bubbles. I don't know. Have you come across these? So you can now buy these things, and they're made from what's it called? You can use it for anything, but you can use it to bubble.
Oh, fabulous. Sort of like the next evolution of the stress ball.
Yeah, it is. I'm not sure that this is going to reset my vagus nerve, but I'm sure it's fun in any case because it makes some interesting noises, and I really enjoy that.
Yeah. We could do a whole session around co-regulation with others, and we won't go there right now, but certainly just by doing things in our environment, we can create some harmony with others and with our environment. So we've got, plants, colors, feng shui, all the things we know there, but also some really simple disciplines like walk, don't run.
Yeah.
That's a really beautiful one. Just slowing down, having gratitude and appreciation. If we're stuck at a red light, if we miss the train, why? Perhaps there's a good reason for that. Maybe it stopped us from having the next accident. We're right place, right time,
When that happens to me, when something happens, like the lights turn red. I actually had that this morning. I was driving and the guy in front of me was going really slow. And so he got over the lights. I didn't. And I just went, okay, well, that's going to be another minute out of my life. I've got some nice music going. The sun is shining. I might as well enjoy the moment. But I mean, I'll be honest with you, many years ago, I probably would have had a hissy fit and I would have gone, why did you waste my time? And, couldn't you drive better? Now it's like, okay, is it really worth it? And I think that really contributes to my inner harmony and probably also to the harmony that I extend to other people.
Absolutely. And then we've got emerging from that synchronicity, which again becomes a whole other conversation, but we become in harmony with time and with flow and with things happening in our environment. And that then brings to us a whole lot of new opportunities that would not have been there if we'd been rushing. We wouldn't have seen them.
Yeah. Well, harmony goes way beyond being nice, not causing a problem or not creating any kind of disturbance, but it's also not accepting dissonance, right? It's the ability to actually say, this is heading in a direction where we create disharmony, and it would be good to do something about that. So having a clarifying conversation is sometimes a really good thing to do.
Sure. But I don't want to give dissonance a bad rap.
No, I don't either. But a lot of people, in my experience, either are afraid of dissonance or they accept dissonance just as it's just there and there's nothing I can do about it.
So the beautiful thing about dissonance is that creates a kind of a stress in the system, pushes us to the next level. So the more we can embrace it, the more we can use it to grow, to move. It's when we're afraid of it and we get stuck in it and we don't progress that dissonance becomes the challenge.
Yeah. And that's when we become inauthentic and we create a foundation for ourselves and for our relationships with other people that doesn't really do us any favors. And it has a long-term health effects as well, because our bodies don't really like dissonance. They don't like not being in harmony or in coherence.
Right.
In incoherence.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So again, there's a lot of food for thought in this. There's so many different aspects, and you thought music was all there was to harmony. Anyway, thank you everyone for watching, and thank you, Jenny. And it's been an honor to have you here. I know we have just scratched really scratched the surface. There is so much more. We could talk for the next 4 hours. And you can talk about this for weeks. I know that. So thank you very much for giving us some ideas. If anybody wants to contact Jenny to find out more, You will find the details. And thanks to you for watching, and I'll see you next week.
Thanks, Ange.